Again, 646-478-0356. This is an interactive show. We ask that you not just listen to the show, but be a part of the show. Hit us up, 646-478-0356. You can hit us up on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, hit us up at Dead End Sports. You can hit us up individually on Twitter as well. You can hit me up at 12Kyle, the number 12KYLE. You can also hit up Ken, KBINGE. You can hit up B at BEEZY430. And you can also hit up my man FIFO at FEEFO247. Remember, this show is being broadcast live each and every Tuesday night. So in the event you cannot listen to the show live, make sure that you check out the archives at blogtalkradio.com/Dead End Sports. You can also catch us on Stitcher. If you have an Android or iPhone, go to your application store, download the Stitcher application for free. Search Dead End Sports, and you can listen at your leisure. And if you're on iTunes, check out Dead End Sports. Dead End Sports is now on iTunes as well. Again, the phone number to call in, area code 646-478-0356. We only got 2 hours, so we're going to make the it. So much to talk about, so much to cover. Of course, I will not be doing it alone. My esteemed co-host, you know him, you know the fellas from Dead End Hip Hop. First, let's bring in my man from the D, the beat maker of the crew. My man BB, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? I'm up here struggling. I'm struggling trying to find something to watch, man. I mean, the sports is getting real thin right now, so I'm watching MMA Greatest Knockouts right now.
Man, I feel you, man. I watched hockey the other night, man. I mean, it was just that.
Hockey is cool. I can watch hockey.
Hockey's cool.
I watch time of year. I guess because I'm from up north, man. So hockey is fine with me. I'm cool with hockey.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check out the game tomorrow night as well. Also got to bring in the point guard of the crew. Bring in my man FIFO. FIFO, what up, though?
What's good, man?
Chilling. And last but not least, Professor X of the crew, my man Ken. Ken, what's good?
Professor X.
It is a wonderful night to talk sports. I'm looking forward to tonight's show as I fade in and out on this Google Hangout. But yeah, man, it's a wonderful night to talk sports, man. We got a lot to talk about with the finals, the Pacers dipping out, OKC falling and failing to meet the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to it. Been waiting for this night since Friday.
Definitely. Before we get started, man, I know you got a chance to check out the Roots picnic this past weekend. How was that?
Oh man.
Man,
I want to hear that.
you know what? It was great, man. I had a great time. I'm a new fan of the city of Philly. The cheesesteaks were great. Had a number of those Saturday. And I got to say this, man. Snoop Dogg put on a hell of a show. The Roots were fantastic, as you would expect. But Janelle Monáe just completely stole the show. I mean, she is an astounding performer, man. It's incredible how great she is. And I'll go on record to say this, that I think she is the best soul performer of our generation right now in this modern day era. Yeah.
Wow. That's big talk.
That's a strong statement. That's a strong statement there, kid.
Hey, man, I'll stand behind it.
All right.
Okay. We're gonna hold you to it. The phone number to call in, area code 646-478-0356. Like I said earlier, man, we got a lot of sports to cover, so we're not gonna keep you waiting. Lock us in right now. If you're on, we're gonna tweet out in a second the Google Hangout. You can come check us out live on the air as well. Finals are set. We got I was about to say Indiana. We got the Miami Heat taking on the San Antonio Spurs in a rematch of last year's finals. Before we get into the participants of the finals, we got to talk a little bit about what happened over the weekend. Obviously, the Pacers fell to the Heat. A lot of stuff happened in the final game, Game 6 in Miami. You had Lance Stevenson putting his hand in LeBron James's face. You had Roy Hibbert, doing what Roy Hibbert does, disappear. You had just a lot of things going forward. The Pacers released a statement not long after the game saying that they would be bringing Coach Vogel back. So, FIFO, I'll start with you, man. What should the Pacers, or what can the Pacers do to get this team better? Because, they thought this was going to be year. They rushed out and jumped out on everybody. They were, the odds-on favorites they had home court advantage, for Christ's sakes, throughout the playoffs. So what should the Pacers do to get better?
I think first and foremost, I've been saying it all year. They need a point guard. I don't know in what capacity of I don't think there's any free agents really out this year at the point guard position that could be an impact for them. But Larry Bird got to find a playmaker, man. Because Paul George is a finisher, Lance is your on and off again playmaker. So I just think they need a playmaker, and I think that those scoreless nights that Hibbert has now, the rebounding. Look, you're 7'2". I can't defend that. Like, I'm 5'6", and every time I go hoop, I get at least 2 rebounds. So at 7'7", you should get a couple of rebounds. You should walk into some rebounds at 7'2". But in terms of scoring, I think that those scoreless nights won't happen with a true point guard, mainly because as soon as they penetrate, who's the first person to help? It's gonna be a big man. So with the dump offs and things of that nature, I think he gets 6 to 8 points just off of a pure point guard on the squad. But realistically, I think that's the main thing that they need. I think that they need some floor spacers. When you watch Indiana, they don't have a shooting specialist, and I think that hurts them. Especially in transition, they don't get a lot of transition threes. So I think mainly their concern is more offensively, because defensively, let's be honest, they can go toe to toe when they're focused against Miami, but offensively, when Miami ratchets it up, they can't outscore them. And I don't think that you necessarily have to outscore Miami, but you have to be able to keep pace, and they can't do that.
Definitely. That's a great point. They definitely, at some point in time, you gotta space those guys out and have them running towards you or what have you. What about you, B? What can the Pacers do to make things better? I mean, they came so close. I mean, game 6, they were right there, and just let it slip away. Well, actually, game 6 they got pounded. I take that back. And that game was real quick. What can they do differently?
Just like I think I know me and FIFA have been saying this for long, is they need to get a true point guard. Get them a true point guard to get them a good floor general. If they can get someone like what's the dude from at New Orleans Pelicans? What's his name?
Holiday.
Yeah. They get somebody like him.
Yeah.
Or yeah. I mean, something similar to that. I mean, of course they can't get like a Chris Paul or somebody, but like they just need someone, a pass first point guard, a floor general over there to kind of get some type of formation on that offense. And then FIFO took another point of mine. They need some shooters. They need to space out the defense that they go against, because they don't got nobody that's just like a pure shooter. They don't have a Kyle Korver, type of player on their team that can just go out and be like, look, I need you to hit them threes, or Ray Allen type player, or James Jones. They don't have nobody that can just knock down threes. And they need to do something. I mean, I tweeted this earlier. I saw Ken said something about this, that I think Hibbert was going Coach Bird saying that Hibbert could go train with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. This is my thing. If you a center, I think that should be like a damn near priority for you. And when you first come into the league, you need to either sit down with a Hall of Fame center, whether it's Kareem, whether it's Hakeem Olajuwon, somebody. You need to go, and I don't, even if it does cost, have the team pay for it. Say like, hey, look, team, hey, we going, the organization should pay for you to go and spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks with Hakeem Olajuwon or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or whatever, because that's what the Pistons did. The Pistons did that with Andre Drummond after his rookie year. They sent in Hakeem Olajuwon, to work on his basic, big man stuff, and look what it's doing. I mean, he didn't go from 3 to 10, but he went from 3 to 6 or 3 to 5, so Andre Drummond is just improving and getting better. But yeah, Hubert, he gonna have to, he gonna have to get some desire on that rebounding end, because him averaging 5 rebounds a game, 6 rebounds a game throughout the season, that's a no-no at 7-2. Like FIFO said, you should be able to walk in. Hell, out of the 12 rebounds you grab, about 8 of them you walking up to them and just he can rebound.
Right.
You know that's not even including the desire or the will to get that rebound. So you 7'2". You should be a double-double machine. He should be leading the league in double-doubles if he had that will and desire. But that's what he needs to work on. Get shooters, get them a floor general, and Hubert, he needs to do something or his ass needs to get out of there.
No doubt, no doubt. What about you, Ken? What can the Pacers do differently going forward?
Kyle, B and Ralph, FIFO, I think the first thing they need to do is just shut the hell up. Just stop talking, man. And I think that has been their problem. That was their problem this year, is that they talk too damn much. And at some point, you become a target and people start coming at you. So they just need to shut up, man, and focus on playing the game and playing the game of basketball and trying to win and focus on the game of basketball. So everybody, B and Ralph, everything they said is exactly 100% on point. They just need to get back to playing basketball and knowing that in order to take advantage of home court in the playoffs, Game 7, you gotta first get to Game 7. And you'll notice the one thing the Heat has done all year long is they let the Pacers yap, and they didn't really say anything. But they knew that when it came time to play the game of basketball, they were going to step on the court, they were going to lock in, and they were going to win. And that's what we saw. It started right after they lost Game 7. They started to talk, and the Heat, man, they just sat there and they just let them talk, and that was that. But yeah, I think first and foremost they need to quit, grow up, be professional, stop talking as much, take a playbook from the Spurs, and go out and play, man, and that's it. So make the adjustments that everybody else has already said, and be quiet. Be quiet.
Definitely. I really don't have much to add, man. The only thing I will say is that, I'm a little surprised I'm not surprised by what we saw, because that game, I mean, literally, it was almost like in Game 6, LeBron just hit a switch. He said, you know what? I'm tired of playing with these jokers. I'm going to go ahead and put my foot on their throat right now. And he went on, I think he scored like 8 straight points. And their lead went from like 3 to like 11, and like it wasn't close after that. Like you could tell, like Indiana was even though they were still playing, they were defeated. Paul George. So me and my boys, we always talk about it on this show. Sometimes the media has a tendency to anoint guys. I don't know necessarily if Paul George is that guy just yet. Not to say that he can't be, but I mean, you're in an elimination game and you got 1 point at halftime? I mean, you can't. That is never supposed to happen. I mean, and I'm not going to compare him to Carmelo or anybody else, but I don't ever recall Kobe or any of these guys, or LeBron for that matter. Even when they lost in the finals, even when LeBron got knocked out, by Boston that year, he was going down guns and blazing. He wasn't going to leave anything left to be said. So Paul George has to step up. The foolishness with Lance, I get it. I understand it. But at the same time, if you're going to tug on Superman's cape, you got because of the antics and stuff, and he karate chopped Norris Cole in the face. I mean, I hadn't seen a slap like that since the Iron Sheik in the WWF. But I think mentally something is not right for this team. I don't know if it's that guys want to be bigger than what they are. I think one thing that Paul George, I watched Paul George's press conference after the game, and he said something that was very key to me. He said that at one point in the season they felt like they could turn it on and turn it off. That right there tells me that you are coasting. You're thinking that, you're reading your own clippings. You're thinking that we're, the Indiana Pacers. We're just going to roll balls out there, and everybody's going to just fall down to us. No, it doesn't work that way. And another thing that kind of stood out to me as far as Lance Stevenson was concerned, when the media asked Paul George what he thought of, if he thought Lance Stevenson should be back next year, his first response was, I don't know.
Yeah.
He clarified it a few seconds later by saying, it's up to Bird and management. He was like, but I definitely want him back. But his first words were, I don't know. That tells me right there that there's a little something going on in the locker room. I don't know if it's Lance feeling like he's bigger than, he knows that he's a budding star. He knows that he should have been an all-star this year. And, keep in mind, Paul George, the seat that Paul George sits in as far as being the team star, he just got in that seat, based off of what happened to Danny Granger. And, some people will say that the Pacers kind of fell apart once they got rid of Danny Granger. Now, Danny Granger wasn't the player that he was, obviously once he came back from the injury, but there's a lot of intangibles. And my thing is, when you got a guy like David West, I have to ask myself, who's the leaders on this team? Paul George just seems too cool to be a leader to me. Of course, I'm not in the locker room. But, you guys talk about point guards and bench help and things of that nature and shooters and scorers and stuff, and they need all of that, but they need they need to be mentally tough. And I don't think this team is mentally tough. Anytime your 7'2" center goes 4 or 5 playoff games with getting 0 points, that's a problem. I mean, that's a huge problem.
But Kyle, they thought, going back to your comment about them saying they could turn it on, they thought they were the Miami Heat because they forced the Miami Heat to go 7 games. They thought that they were their equal. And that's why they were saying the things that they were saying. When they started the season out real hot, they were able to turn it on early on because teams were not taking them seriously. So what was happening was, and they developed some very, very bad habits early in the season. So as the season went on and teams started to take them a little bit more serious because of their record, they felt that they could continue to implement the same bad habits they had when they started the season. And that proved to be not the case. So you're right. They thought that they were tough because they forced the champs to a Game 7 because they felt like for the last 2 years before to this season that they thought that they were Miami's equals and that they thought they should have won both series. And what the Heat did to them in this series was that they showed them that they are the top dog and you snuck up on us before, but now you're not going to sneak us up on us again. And so what we're going to do is we're going to beat the crap out of you in every single way fashionable and show that you are not our equals. And, yes, there are some problems in that locker room because a lot of people developed a big head and they started to receive a lot of press, which we saw with the pictures that they took and Lance Stevenson thinking he wanted to be, an all-star, and he was upset about that. And reports that Lance Stevenson was out, chasing down rebounds and taking rebounds from his other players so he can get a triple-double, and those sort of things. And look, I'm not going to let you guys off the hook, man. You guys put Paul George in that superstar status before the season started, man. And look, I love Paul George. When Paul George arrived in 2012, when they had Danny Granger was healthy, I was like, they don't need Danny Granger anymore because Paul George is that dude. He had a phenomenal series last year, another great year this year, but he's still young. He has some things to learn, and I think he can, at some point, with his game, be a top 5 player in this league. But everybody was ready to put him on LeBron's level, and to me, that was just disrespectful. He just hasn't earned it yet.
Here's the thing, though. Like, first of all, you're 100% right. Paul George is young, but last year in that playoff series, he played at LeBron's level. You want to look at the numbers. He played at LeBron's level. He matched LeBron, and that's the reason why they went 7 games, was because of Paul George, offensively and defensively. And he started off this season.
I disagree with that.
Whoa. Whoa, we on the internet. We can look them numbers up. In my estimation, in my opinion of what I saw last year, he was scoring 40-something against LeBron. How many players do that, man? It's only a handful. You can only say Carmelo can do that. I wouldn't even say consistently, but Carmelo's on a short list of people that I will put to say that he could score 40 against LeBron. KD. I don't know who else, bro. I don't know any other perimeter player that can put up a 40-point game against LeBron, primarily guarding you. But with that being said, the beginning of the season, Paul George just rolled that momentum over. And the first year of ascending to a superstar, let's be honest, that's the hardest transition. Going from a regular player, a young player in this league, finding your footing, and then becoming an all-star, and then that superstar level, like I've said all year with Paul George, I feel like he's scratched the surface, and at times he's played at a superstar level, but he's not a superstar yet. I think he's on that plane. I think that this year in the NBA, you have to be mentally tough. To another one of your points, Ken, they're not mentally tough, but these lumps in the road help them. And even going to what D. Rose said at the beginning of the season. D. Rose said that the Bulls, when healthy, they are Miami's only true competition. And this series showed why. And, Ken, it's your point because of mental toughness. If Chicago was healthy, and that's a big if because we don't know about D. Rose and everybody else is always getting hurt, Thibodeau playing dudes 40-some plus minutes a game, that's tough. But when you already know they bring it game in, game out. Game in, game out, and that's the difference. The Bulls don't turn it on and turn it off. They're always on. And Indiana needs to get to a place where they're on more than they're off because we're human. Everybody's not always going to be on, and that's tough, and you need leadership. And there's a whole bunch of other things that go with that. But Indiana, I think that falls on Frank Vogel. I think that hopefully he's learned from this past season. Hopefully Larry Bird tweaks this roster over the offseason and leaves it. And hopefully, Frank Vogel could get these guys a little bit, mentally tougher. But also, I think that part of the reason why they're mentally weak is because they have no floor general. And David West can't necessarily be your floor general. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he could play a secondary role to that, to be the tough guy. Like, he does that. He does that already, and it's not enough. Yeah. But I think that they don't have a guy that they can rely on. Like, Paul George is not that guy. Paul George is a two-way player, scorer, defender. He's not LeBron, and he's not even KD. But he can score 30 a game, and he can shut down your best guy. But they need a guy that they can rely on. Let me get the ball in this guy's hand, and we can trust that he's going to do something positive for our team. Because I don't think that you can rely on Paul George like that, for an entire game. I don't think you can rely on David West, Lance Stevenson. They don't have a guy that, as soon as we get the rock, we know we're going to get what we need to get.
Yeah, I believe in Paul George, man. I think this year was very humbling for him, and I expect great things from him moving forward. The funny thing about the playoffs and this series, it seemed like at some point David West even threw his hands up, was like, you know what, I'm done with you guys.
Right.
I'm not accustomed to seeing that from him. He's a little bit more stable and a little bit more composed than that. But it's like he just knew that whatever was going on in that locker room or whatever transpired just was too much for them to overcome. But I want to go back to something you said, FIFO. I do hold Vogel accountable. I'm glad that they are bringing him back, even though I thought they were not, because I think he is a good coach. I think he bought into the fact that they were as good as Miami, and I think he had to take a step back and learn, from this year as well. He looked like he was about to cry at the post game, and I wouldn't be shocked to come to find out that he cried on the way home. But I think we have to look at Larry Bird, and I think Larry Bird has to bear some responsibility for what happened to this team. Mainly because he made a lot of in-season changes to this team that he may have felt was needed, but in the end, granted hindsight is 2020, we can see that they were not needed. You did not need to get rid of Danny Granger for a player that Vogel didn't even use.
But Ken, here's the thing too.
Bynum, and Bynum is a bane on every team.
But Ken, I think the difference is honestly, if Pat Riley were to make a move, I think it wouldn't change Miami. And they made a couple moves. They always, every year, they add a couple players during the season or whatever. I think the difference is that Indiana is still overall a young team. Hibbert is still a young player. The only true veteran on that squad is Luis Scola and David West. Everybody that primarily handles the rock and things of that nature, they're young. They're not true professionals yet. And they really haven't had a lot of course, you have Larry Bird in the front office, and of course, the way that the Pacers are portrayed, is very professional. But this season, we saw that maybe behind the scenes it's not as professional as we may think it is. And I think that Indiana just needs a couple more veterans. Because Miami's ready all the time. And when you look at teams like San Antonio, these championship teams, and I think we touched on it last week, Udonis can go 2 series without playing, come into the starting lineup, and do his thing. Shane Battier is the same way. Mike Miller was absent the whole year. And come
to
Game 7 of the finals.
Yeah.
Game 7 in particular, the last day. Oh, you know what? I'm going to earn my contract today. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's, there's not one player on that Indiana roster that I feel that way about. There's nobody. And I think that's Indiana's problem. San Antonio has that. Patty Mills comes in. Ginobili's been a 6-man his whole career. They just have guys that come in and they're ready to play. Indiana didn't seem that way. And another point that you made, Ken, Indiana and also Kyle, they said that they felt like they could turn it on and off. Every championship team is like that. Every championship team, because let's be honest, you have how many teams this year didn't win 30 games? There's a lot of them. There's a lot of bad teams. So how do you get up on a third night? You've been flying all over the place. You done beat the good teams, and now we got Philly. They're young. They probably rested 2 days. They at home. They got something to prove because we're Indiana. That is tough. So I understand that, but at the same time, when it's time to turn on, they didn't turn on, and that's the problem.
Correction, FIFO. They're a high-caliber team, not a championship team.
There we go.
When you were talking about Indiana, I'm like, champion, they ain't win nothing.
Yeah,
I think that speaks to the culture of Miami. You look at Beasley, you look at Oden, who have been quiet. They haven't played. Obviously they're looking for second chances, so they're going to shut the hell up. But Beasley, he want to get out there. And, Oden is sitting in Indiana this is his series. And he's sitting there. He's like, man, I'm ready whenever they call me. But as soon as they go to the finals, he's up there, dancing with the trophy. Because he sat there and he's like, when I'm called upon, I'll be ready. And I agree with you. Championship teams do feel like they can turn it on and turn it off. The problem is Miami, and like Beast just pointed out, Indiana thought they were a championship team when they were not. So they tried to adopt the habits of a championship team when they don't know how to exactly put those in place just yet. And one final thing is that, again, going back to Vogel, you had Scola, you had Chris Copeland, and he rarely used these guys, and Scola was primarily ineffective, and he was only effective in spurts. But they were using for a first half, and then in the second half, you wouldn't see him.
And you know what, Ken, you just brought something up. Yeah, Chris Copeland, it was some games when he came in and he was balling. And it was just kind of like, I forgot who was the announcer who said that. But it was like, why is Coach not using Copeland more? It's like Copeland, he made some pretty good play. I mean, against the starting lineup, he made some pretty good plays. And people was like, well, why hasn't he been playing him throughout the series or throughout the playoffs? So that's a good. I forgot about him, Ken.
Yeah, Vogel's being stubborn, but look, this is the last thing I want to say. I told y'all that the Indiana Pacers were not a threat to the Heat at the beginning of the season. I'm not letting y'all off the hook. I'm just like FIFO. I'm glad we do this show because it's documented and it's on record and it's on tape. So,
hey, I said there was gonna be a threat.
Hey, he's on the camera flexing. If you're at home or you're on your computer watching, we're on the Google Hangout. Check us out. We just tweeted it out too. From our Dead End Sports account, Ken is flexing on us because he is right. He was semi-right about Paul George and props we were giving him. The phone number to call in, area code 646-478-0356. Again, 646-478-0356. If you can't get to a computer, jump in the chat room. We always got folk in the chat room chopping it up, having a good time. So once again, before we get to the participants of the finals, let's talk about the team that lost. So we talked about the Pacers. Now let's take it over to OKC. I heard a lot of talk about whether or not Westbrook and Durant could coexist, so forth and so on. This team is fundamentally flawed. I heard all types of things about this team. So I'll start with you first, Ken. What will it take for OKC to win a title?
OKC, first off, they needed a healthy Ibaka. That affected the Spurs series. So I kind of give them a slight pass, even though you have the MVP and you have Westbrook, but they clearly needed Ibaka. They need more scoring besides the three of them. Caron Butler, they brought him there for a reason, and that was to provide offense off the bench. He was ineffective. He had a chance to go to Miami. Nice ass at home.
Did he play in the last game, Ken? I don't remember seeing him.
He didn't score. I don't think he played in the last game.
Okay.
He wanted to go to OKC because he wanted to play, and he wanted to play for a contender. Miami, they wanted him, but he wanted to play, and he's at home right now, and probably more money too. So, but anyway, so I can't fault him for the choice. That was a good choice. OKC was rolling, but he didn't know that Ibaka was going to get hurt. But I think here's what I think that OKC needs to do besides the obvious issue of Westbrook and Durant not really being compatible. I think if you do start Reggie Jackson as a floor general and as a point guard, and FIFA can maybe speak to whether or not he could be an effective point guard, shift Westbrook to maybe like a two or play me off the ball or whatever, that may help. That may give them some options there. It's worked with a little bit of success against the Spurs, but the main flaw that I saw with OKC when Ibaka went down was they didn't have anybody else. And they have players on the bench that I think that, with the right development, they can contribute to that team. Jeremy Lamb. He can play. The other guy, Perry Jones, he's long and he can play if he's developed. So I think when they look at some of the guys they have on the bench, Steve Adams was a rookie. I think he'll be able to come in and be that tough guy you need. So I think what they need to do is they need to develop those two young guys, into being contributors next season, because they played in the beginning of the year and then all of a sudden they just dropped out of rotation. And when they did play, they proved that they can be effective when they are on the court. So I think they need to develop those players into being contributors from the bench, and maybe if Davos, if he doesn't come back next year, maybe they can insert one of those guys into the starting lineup. So I think that they need more offensive help, so they don't have to rely on Westbrook and Kevin Durant to consistently do everything on a night in and night out basis.
Okay. What about you, B? What is it going to take, man? Is it Kate? Can Katie and Russ coexist? What do you think is going to take for OKC to get over the hump?
They need to either, I guess, dump Kendrick Perkins and get them some low post presence, like someone on the block that can score, that you can throw it down on the block and they can create own shot in the post. Or I know me and FIFA have been saying this, and we've been arguing with people on Twitter about this. Switch Westbrook and get you a floor general point guard, such like a Rondo type of PG on the floor, because Westbrook, as great as Westbrook is, I mean, we're not knocking Westbrook at all. Westbrook is a hell of a player.
Right.
He's a hell of a player, hell of an athlete, hell of a basketball player, everything. But at your point guard, you need someone that distribute that ball and get the man, the MVP, Kevin Durant. Give him his looks. He need to be the guy to take over. Westbrook shouldn't be taking those shots away from Durant. So I think they need a floor general PG, and people argue with me and FIFA about that all the damn time. It's like, it's not going to work. Them two are not going to work. As great as they are, it's not going to work. It's just not, But like I said, I think they need that, and they need some low post presence. Kendrick Perkins, Get his ass out of here. Get someone on the block that can score. In the paint, man. Like that can score in the paint as well as rebound and still play some defense. Play a little bit of defense. And probably not as good as Perkins, but Perkins offensively just sucks. You can't even rely on him to do anything offensively. He's like a liability on offense. So you need someone that you can depend on the block, that you can throw it down there, and that can get some of them other big fellas in foul trouble. But you don't have that. So that's what they need.
I want to address a couple of things that Ken said. First of all, you asked me a question.
I did.
Yeah, so the first one was, can Reggie Jackson be their starting point guard with Westbrook playing the 2? I think that's an adjustment type of a rotation. I think depending on who you're playing in the playoffs or certain things of that nature, you make that move, but I don't think that's your long-term championship roster rotation. I just don't. I think Reggie Jackson is a potent guard off the bench, but like Westbrook, he's also a combo guard. So it's not like you're putting him out there with, let's say, like a CP. Westbrook is still going to have to make a lot of decisions with the ball in his hand, even with Reggie Jackson starting at point guard. So that's why I don't think that works. And I think for me, being a point guard, coaching, and just being involved in basketball as much as I have, I'm still with Westbrook being a point guard, the same way I was with AI being a 2 guard. Westbrook is a point guard. He is a point guard. The problem, I think, the main problem with Westbrook is this. I think it is Coach. Coach Scott Brooks. Scott Brooks. Look, and Charles Barkley alluded to this as well. He has to hold KD and Westbrook more accountable. You have to understand time and possession. Like that last 3 that Westbrook took against San Antonio, that is a horrendous shot.
God. Oh my God!
He on the backboard, the top of the backboard. So to me, as a point guard, when you're an extension of the coach, he's not an extension of the coach. And I understand having a player that raw coming in the first 2 or 3 years. Okay, you should see progression. And I think what is it, year 5 or 6 now? We haven't seen that. So that's not from the player. That's from the coaching staff and the head coach himself. We've seen Stephen Curry take his game to a whole nother level. And that, to me, is directly attributed to Mark Jackson. Russell Westbrook needs to be held accountable for his decisions, and I don't think that Scott Brooks is that guy for a couple reasons. I think because he's been there since day one with those guys. So there may be a friendship kind of thing there. I was there from the beginning. I think that I don't think Scott Brooks should be back. And it's not because I think he's a bad coach. I just don't think that he has progressed with his team. They still do the same thing. We saw year 1 Miami to this year Miami, completely different, including the players and how they play and what their roles are. And I think that's the main thing. And that is a perfect prelude to the other point that I was going to make about you, Ken. Jeremy Lamb and the long guy, Perry Jones. I love his game.
Yeah, Perry Jones.
They are developed already. Now, these guys, I don't think that they're ever going to be superstars. They have the intangibles to be all-stars. Now, will they get there? I don't know, especially when you have players like a Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant kind of stunting their growth in terms of shot opportunities and, taking over the game and things of that nature. But, again, this falls on Scott Brooks. He needs to have defined roles. When Perry Jones and Jeremy Lamb come in, they need to know exactly what they are. And once they fell out of the rotation, and then all of a sudden on the whim, I'm playing you against San Antonio in do-or-die situations, don't you think that they would have been more ready for that situation if they would have got the minutes leading up to the playoffs? So to me, again, that's Scott Brooks. So I'm not saying that Scott Brooks is the only issue, but I think that he's the main issue. And then from a roster standpoint, if you're going to stay with KD and Russell Westbrook, then I think you have to change the coach. If you want Scott Brooks, then I think you have to change one of the players. And I've always said I trade Westbrook for Rondo straight up. Westbrook for Rondo straight up, and then Boston at that moment, if you get Westbrook, throw everything else you got to go get Kevin Love and start Kevin Love and Westbrook. But yeah, man, from OKC standpoint, you either got to get rid of the coach, you got to get rid of Westbrook.
You know, one of the things, the reason why I asked about Reggie Jackson is because when Westbrook was out, Reggie Jackson was so effective running the point guard position as a starter for the games he was out. So that's why I wonder if he would be able to coexist with KD and Westbrook together. I totally agree with you. I think Westbrook is a point guard. He's an offensive point guard. But if you look at that man's numbers in the Western Conference Finals, I mean, they were simply amazing, man. Over 20-something points a game. What was it, 27, damn near 88?
Yeah.
That shit was crazy, man. I
mean,
mean,
look at his turnovers.
No, I feel you. Yeah.
And then with Reggie Jackson, he did have a great when Westbrook went down. Reggie Jackson played great because the only other player that he had to really, take a step back for offensively was KD. Because who was the second option offensively? Maybe Ibaka and maybe him most of the time. They split that second option. So to me, he can coexist with KD. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you trade Westbrook and don't get a point guard in return, I think Reggie Jackson could definitely be your starting point guard, but then you need a starting two. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever you're getting back in return for Westbrook. But look, at the end of the day, if they love their roster, and I love their roster, I think that they are primed for a championship. But then it comes down to the coaching staff and holding their players accountable. Westbrook, in the last minutes of the game, you can't have these type of turnovers. You can't take these type of shots. We have to make sure that we get the shots we want. And that's the main reason why I chose the Clippers over OKC. Because what did I say? Execution. I think that it was a little bit much, everything that was happening, but at the end of the day, and it came down to execution. When CP lost the ball, them two last turnovers, and then that foul on Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? And to me, Westbrook makes those type of plays too often. And when you have a guy as efficient as KD, he needs more shots, even if it comes at the expense of your own offense.
Yep.
Because you're a point guard. That's your job. So, and to me, that's coach's job to make sure that he does his job. TD.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What's good, Nash?
Good, Notch.
That's what's up. Yep. He don't. Nope. Yeah. He was getting worked. He was getting worked. He was getting worked. He was getting worked. Yeah.
You,
Mhm. Yep.
uh, and you know what, Naj, man, I want to address something you started out with. You're absolutely right, man. I've been hard on Westbrook, but I have to back that up a little bit and give him a break, man. Um, I think we do have to start looking at KD. We do need to start holding KD a little bit more accountable than we have in the past. The guy was the MVP for Christ's sakes this year, and they're jumping on Westbrook more than KD. And KD came up small a lot of times in the playoffs. He struggled against Memphis. Shit, I forgot who they played in the second round. Wait, yeah. Well, anyway, Clippers. You know, he had some ineffective games. Clippers, man, he really didn't get it going. in the playoffs, man. And people continue to give this guy a pass. And it's like when I look at KD, he kind of reminds me a little bit of LeBron when it comes to that mentality of going out and getting it. And at times we've seen it early on in his career, and I think when he's exhibited some failures, I think he's been a little bit more reluctant to step up and assume that role. And, of course, playing with Westbrook got the ball. He has the ball all the time, and he's going to toss it up whenever he feels like it. And I think that's when people look at KD and say, look, man, I need the ball, and you got to give me the ball. So yeah, man, I think we need to now that he's the MVP, now that he's won the MVP, I think now we need to really start looking at KD and talking about what KD isn't doing instead of more what he is doing. So yeah, man, it's time to hold him accountable, man, and let Westbrook be Westbrook, as long as he's not costing the team.
You know what, man? Another thing too is I feel like KD. First of all, from a media, spectator standpoint, KD has a lot of outs. A lot of people blame Scott Brooks for the offense. A lot of people blame Westbrook for him not getting shots, this, that, and the third. And while at times those are viable outs, KD needs to be more assertive. And I think that's his main problem. Because I understand being a teammate, especially me being a point guard. To this day, when I still hoop, I struggle with it at times from being too passive, me trying to do my job to make sure everybody gets their shots, make sure everybody's happy. And at times, I need to take over. You know what I'm saying? And what KD needs to understand is you're not LeBron. LeBron is more Magic. You should be more MJ. And if you already have a guy that already has that mentality, I'm going to go get buckets, you need to have that conversation with him to say, look, I need my buckets first, and then you can have everything else. And KD just needs to get more aggressive offensively, because until that happens, they won't be competing for championships. And it's not saying that Russell Westbrook doesn't need to be as aggressive. He needs to be as aggressive, if not more aggressive, as a point guard, not as a scorer. You see what I'm saying? You can still attack the basket. You can still put on the jet stop on a dime. You know what I'm saying? And you can still do all of your moves that make you who you are, that separate you physically and athletically from everybody else in the NBA. But as a point guard, he needs to start utilizing that as a point guard, and KD just needs to start being more aggressive as a shooter, and Scott Brooks needs to do a better job of putting everybody in situations. Because to me, when you have two guys like that are ball dominant, it is up to the coach to make sure that other players are in positions and situations where they can be effective. To Naj's point with Popovich, who the hell is a Baines? Everybody comes in and they are confident in their role because their role is clearly defined. That is coaching.
Yep. Right. A 6 foot guard, a 6 foot point guard. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Good point.
Talk Radio. If you desire, you are now in the host.
Gonna hang up and let you, man. Y'all doing good.
All right, appreciate you, man.
Thanks, homie.
Yo, what up, Kyle?
Ken, man, that was Ken. Ken, look, he cracking up too, man. Nah, Ken. Yeah, hang up his line. Ken up here. Ken crazy. crazy.
Yes. Yes. No doubt.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, you know, look, Dynasty is sustained achievement over a long period of time. You know, they're nearing half a decade, four straight trips to the finals, two championships, going on their third. To me, that's a dynasty, and the fact of how they did it, the fact that they were able to get there year one, the fact that LeBron, even when him and D Wade were still figuring things out, they were still dominant. You know what I'm saying? And back-to-back championships. The last team to win back-to-back championships was the Lakers, and that's the early 2000s. So, you know, for me, they're a dynasty. And the reason why I have to say that they're a dynasty right now is because of this. The CBA, the way it is constructed, it is not the same as it once was of yesteryear when you had the Lakers and the Celtics and even the Bulls. And even what San Antonio's been able to do has been pretty remarkable in the CBA era. So they are a dynasty. I wish that it would be able to go on for a little bit longer. But I'm going to tell you like this. I think, honestly, LeBron is a dynasty. Just like MJ was a dynasty. Kobe was a dynasty. I think that these players, these transcendent players, they're somewhat dynasties once they get one or two chips. You know, like KD, once he gets one or two, I think it's going to be a KD era. But, you know, it depends on where LeBron is in his career. So to answer the question, yes, Miami is a dynasty.
Hey, FIFO. Okay, let me ask you this: If Miami lose this finals, would we still consider them a dynasty? The fact that they made it.
You know what? I would have to take it, you know, a step back and say that they're just a great team over a long period of time. But I think that for me, that my answer really hinges on them winning 3 in a row. Because how many teams have done that?
Right. And four straight trips to the finals. That's pretty remarkable. That's you know, to be mentally tough to do that. You know, 4 straight years, you know, that's a lot of people kind of forget that. Like when you thinking about, okay, you got the off season, you work in the off season, then you got the 82 game schedule, then you got the playoffs, you won a championship. You go through it all again. That you mentally you have to like lock in, you know, for that grind, man. And a lot of fans don't realize that, man. It's already hard enough to get 1, but for you to lock in and to get 2, to get 3, and then, you know, to get up there for the 4th straight year, mentally, that's insane, man. That's insane.
And you know, another thing too, B, is the fact, like the same point I made with the Pacers. Like when you have, you know, 3 games in 4 nights, and then you got this young team wanting to prove a point, playing their hardest. Like first of all, most championship teams that second year they all say is harder because now you're harder.
Yep.
But think about Miami. They were a target from day one because of what LeBron did. So he embraced that role, and for him to be the NBA's most liked player, to be the most hated player from 1 year to that. First of all, mentally, for LeBron to embrace that and to use that, that is crazy.
That's crazy.
For him to still be who he was, you know, the player he was. You know, and for him to overcome that, and then to even just get to the finals, to me, that was an accomplishment. And you're 100% right, B. That mental, like obviously none of us have ever played in the NBA, but the closest that I've gotten to playing back-to-back games and multiple people in a playoff and things like that was when I was at this one basketball camp. And let me tell you how hard it is to play one team 3 times. 7 times, you know exactly their tendencies, you know what they want to do. Like, and just, you know, just quickly, that team that we played 3 times in that camp, the first time we played, we probably scored both teams, you know, 40 to 50 points for both teams. And we scored 50, they scored 40 something. The second time, man, it was hard to crack the 30s. By the third time we played them, I think we beat them like 29-27. Because it's just that tough. They know.
It's tough. Yeah.
They know. So, like, we were calling plays, and they were like, okay, he's coming here. They were calling plays, and we knew what they were doing. So it's just tough, man. And for Miami to do that 4 straight years, and especially if they get the championship, hands down, they're a dynasty.
Yeah, if they Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to the question I asked people. If they win this year, if they beat San Antonio for the second straight year after San Antonio got that red light that they see in red right now against Miami, and LeBron still able to overcome that, and they beat them, yeah, they're a dynasty. I mean, a three-peat. No team hasn't done that since the 2000 through 2002 Lakers, and for them to do that in this era NBA to go 4 straight and three-peat out of that. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that'd be considered dynasty. Now, if they lose, I might be like, you know, it's hard. I mean, I think from a mentally standpoint, you could say yeah, because them getting there 4 straight years is like crazy. Because look at it like this, Kyle. You know, many people consider the Braves a dynasty when they went 14 straight years, depending, but they only got 1 World Series out of that. You know what I'm saying? But you still for 14 straight years. You won a freaking pennant. That's crazy. So even though they only got 1 World Series to show for it, that's still, you can kind of say that's a dynasty. They probably don't got the multiple championships to prove it, but for them to get the pennant that many years, so for Miami, it's kind of like if they win this, yeah, they're a dynasty. I'm saying they're this year's dynasty, this decade's dynasty or whatever. What was you getting ready to say, Kyle? Was you about to say something? Yeah. Thing around. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, you know what? Y'all are crazy, man. Win or lose, the Miami Heat are a dynasty. They are a dynasty, and here are the reasons why. 2011, they beat that year's MVP, the Chicago Bulls, in 5 games. Then they went on to beat the Boston Celtics, their arch nemesis. And
They beat Boston first. They beat Boston
They beat Boston first. Okay, all right.
In the Eastern
Either
Conference.
way it go, they beat them. They beat Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, 2 NBA champions. They beat them. Then they beat the MVP. And then, of course, we know what happened in the finals. They lost, but they were well on their way to being up 2-0 until they got cocky. They learned their lessons. Then they won back-to-back championships, and of course now they're here again. In the finals. Let's look at Kevin Durant, right? Let's look at no. Let's look at Dallas. They haven't been back. You look at OKC, they haven't been back. And now, of course, they're playing San Antonio twice, and San Antonio has a championship pedigree. And, of course, during their heyday when they were scooping up championships, they were considered, like a dynasty, themselves as well. The fact that they have been able to go to 4 straight championships with teams gunning for them, that should just put them as a dynasty, period. Look at what they've done in the history they've made. 27 straight, last year. and LeBron playing phenomenal games, winning the game 7 against Indiana, who tested them, winning the game 7 against the Spurs, who haven't lost the finals, since they've been in existence, and since the Big Three have played. Come on, man. You got to give it up to them. I think we're placing too much value in them winning another championship, and I think there's a lot of value in them making it to the finals 4 straight times. When you look at the teams that they outside of San Antonio, the other teams haven't even made it back or even close to it. So, yeah, man, I think they're a dynasty. I think they're a dynasty regardless of if they win or lose in the finals. Yeah, man. It hasn't been done in, 23 years? 23 years? Come on, man. I think we need to give Miami Heat some respect. Well, no. I think just make it to the finals 4 straight.
Talking about 4 straight years. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Ken. This is just a spur of the moment question. If a team make it to the Eastern Conference Finals 6 years in a row, would you consider them a dynasty?
I think with
one championship, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals 6 years in a row, would you consider them a dynasty?
I mean, they were elite, man. I would look at them as a dynasty, man. The Eastern Conference Finals, to get that far, a game away from the finals, is tough. It is tough, man, and it's not an easy accomplishment.
So, Ken, let me ask you this:
I would probably give them
Eagles a dynasty? The Andy Reid Eagles a dynasty?
Yeah, the McNabb.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I gave them a lot of props for making it to the NFC. So, yeah, they made that. Yeah, I would probably look at them as a dynasty, man, because that. You know how hard it is to get to the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
No chips.
6 straight.
No,
but eventually they made the Super Bowl though, and they had a chance to win that Super Bowl if McNabb wasn't throwing up everywhere. Come on, man, the NFC Championship.
But I don't know about that one, Ken. If you consider a dynasty, you got to at least have some championship pedigree under there. If you want to be considered, regardless if I don't consider Buffalo Bills a dynasty when they went to the Super Bowl 4 straight years and lost. No, you gotta have a championship, Ken. You gotta have at least a championship in there.
Dog,
you gotta get over that hump.
You got Ken. You got to at least get one or something, dude. You didn't get one championship. Come on, Ken.
Look, man. I did not like the Bills.
Look at the records. Look at teams who we consider dynasties. They got championships, right?
Man,
yeah.
Come on, man. We're talking about the Super Bowl B.
No, but they didn't get it. You got to win a dynasty. Exactly. I can't. Yeah. Same way with the.
How hard is it to get to the Super Bowl, though?
Yeah. In a heartbeat, yeah. Yeah, that's a dynasty. Because they got championships. Multiple.
The Super Bowl, man. We're talking about the Super Bowl. You know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl? Because
it's yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Man, are y'all serious right now?
Ken is mad. Ken is mad.
Oh, 4 straight finals, Kyle. That's
with a three-peat. 3
Or
consecutive.
got nothing. Or you don't have any. Or what about
I'm
if
not
you don't
gonna
have
argue
any
the
championship
Buffalo
rings?
Bills, but what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
you ain't gonna argue the Buffalo Bills because you know.
you know what? It's hard to argue that one. But look, 4 straight finals. When you're talking about the Miami Heat, a team that not 1 or 2 or 3 teams have been gunning for them, you're talking about 31 other teams, like FIFO says, since preseason of 2011 have went after these guys juggling. And they've managed to prevail and get to the finals 4 straight times. They have been the best of the East for 4 straight years.
And I said it, Ken. I said it's kind of thin ice with my answer. I said it was thin. I was like, it's kind of thin. It's like, damn, even if they don't win it, it's still kind of be like, damn, mentally tough for you to get there 4 straight years in itself. I think it's insane. It's crazy. It's great.
If they were 1-3, I would be like, you know what? All right, fine. I'm okay with 2-2. 2-2 is a harder argument than 3-1, but
yeah.
The fact is that they've had, like B said, that red dot on their head since they came together, man. They have been the premium team in the East for 4 straight years, and they've managed to get to the finals, even in their inaugural season. And so come on, man, they beat the Spurs, dog. You know how hard it is to beat Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan and crew.
Yeah, it'd be crazy if they do it again this year. It'd be nuts. Like I think if Miami win championship, it's like you got to start mentioning LeBron with the greats. I mean, automatically now, especially if he three-peat this. If he three-peat this, it's like a no-brainer now. You can't hate. You hate on LeBron if you want. If he three-peat this, if he beat the Spurs again, it's like it's no question. It's like he definitely gonna shut up the naysayers, I think.
And you know what? Wouldn't it be karma for him, for the Heat to just sweep the Spurs? You know, kind of the way that.
Man, that would be so crazy. Yeah, that would be so crazy.
TD will go out on a sweep. Because if I'm Tim Duncan, I would retire.
Regardless if LeBron, you think regardless if they win or lose, Tim Duncan should retire?
I think so.
Oh,
I think so.
And
it's not because he can't compete at a high level. It's because it's like, what else at this point? What else do you have to prove?
What else do you want to prove? Right.
Finals. We got 3 rings, 4 rings. He got 4 rings.
You got 4. You got 4 rings.
It's like, okay, do you really want to go through all of that mental, all of that physical stuff for what? You're a 4-time champion.
We've been saying that for the last 3 seasons. We've been like, well, yeah, this Tim Duncan last year. He ain't gonna come back and do it again.
That's true. And you know, look at me and you. We still hoop and shit. We not that much younger than TD. So I feel I understand.
Right. Exactly.
But you know, I don't know. Look, if he comes back, I wouldn't be hating. But honestly, I would like to see Miami sweep them just for karma's sake. Just because, I feel like I don't think it's gonna happen. They're too good.
No, they're too good. Greg Pop is too good of a coach, and San Antonio is too good of a team. I would be like surprised. I would be shocked, like mouth to the floor, if they got swept. If San Antonio got swept.
I agree.
That'd be crazy.
Unless something happened to Tony Parker. That's the only way I can see that happening.
No,
phone number, call in, area code 646-478-0356. Again, 646-478-0356. You're locked in live to the best sports show on the internet right now. Did you break something, man? I just heard
people out here trying to break dance. People out there break dance.
My partners in crime, KB and FIFO. Hit us up, 646-478-0356. You can also check us out on the Google Hangout. We are working out the kinks, but we are on the screen. We're live on your TVs. We're on your computers. We're on your pods, everywhere. Okay, we can kind of combine these next couple of questions. Who's going to win the finals, and in how many games? What is it going to take for the team to win the finals? B, I'll start with you. Who's going to win, and in how many games?
Oh man, who's gonna win? I think I called it, man. I'm gonna stick with my pick. For some reason, man, I just think the Spurs, they just seeing red right now. Tim Duncan made a comment I've never heard Tim Duncan make. Or I've never heard him talk this certain way when they was interviewing him after the game. When he won, he was like, yeah, we wanted to get this opportunity. We glad it's Miami, and we got 4 more to win, and we're going to get it this time. And I was like, what? I'm like, Tim Duncan saying they're going to get it this time? Like, is this Tim Duncan saying this? Tim Duncan rarely speaks about, them winning the series or what they're going to do before a series. So for him to say that, I'm like, what? And it's like, but also, Kyle, I'm also depending this on Tony Parker's health. I don't know how much of 100% he's going to be. If Tony Parker is 60, 70%, then I'm going with Miami. But if Parker, if this we got to wait damn near a week for game 1. If Parker able to, rejuvenate his injury and be 100% Tony Parker, and, Greg Pop is doing what Greg Pop do, Tim Duncan do what he do, I see Spurs in 7. And, they got home court advantage this time. Last year Miami had home court advantage. This year, Spurs got the home court advantage. So, I wouldn't be shocked or surprised if they win the first 2 games because they've been looking unstoppable at home these pretty much throughout this whole playoff. So, wouldn't be shocked. But man, I hate to go against the champs. You know what I'm saying? I just think San Antonio just see red, man. Ever since that game 6, when they was like at the fingertips, 1 millimeter away from grabbing that trophy, I think they see red this time. And I remember, Greg Pop been saying they played that same game 6 game at the beginning of the season, and they just been seeing red ever since. And they got the best record in the NBA, and it's crazy, man. I don't know. I think Spurs gonna get it in 7.
All right. What about you, Ken, man? Who you got and why?
Man, I have thought long and hard about this rematch between the Spurs and the Heat.
Oh man.
Read every single article I could read. I too saw the comments that Tim Duncan made, and all year long people have been talking about Spurs Heat rematch. Spurs will win it again this year, and much like B, man, I gotta agree, man. Them boys, man, they're playing with a singular purpose, and that is revenge against the Miami Heat. They felt like they were robbed, and they felt like that the Miami Heat are walking away with their championship, and they're coming for what they believe is rightfully theirs, and they have been playing like it. And when you have that type of motivation, a team like that executes the way they execute, that's as experienced as they are, that finally has a chance to get after the team that they took 2-7 games and they had 3-2. When you get that shot that's hard, for one, you rarely get a chance to get a shot at that team again. So it seems like for them, this is set up for them to get what they've wanted all year long. And that's all we've heard, man, is a lot of people in the media, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, and everybody else talking about how the Spurs want the Heat, and that's all they want, and that's it, nothing else. And they wanted to get to the finals, they want to get their championship, and they wanted to be the Miami Heat. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be their damn problem because the Heat going to win in 6. I think Tim Duncan made a critical mistake when he said that.
I was about to say that too. I was getting ready to say. I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Should have opened his mouth when he said, "I'm glad it's the Heat. We're gonna do it this time. We're gonna complete whatever he said. We're gonna do it this time."
No, he said we got 4 more wins and we're gonna get it this time.
Yep, we got 4. He never should have said that, man, because understand something. The Heat are playing for the same damn thing.
Yeah.
And for the Heat, they're like, we are the champs. And for me, I'm sorry, I'm not going against the champs. They won back-to-back championships. Winning 3 is tough. Winning 3 against this team would be tough. Popovich is going to bring some stuff. But, man, you know what? when you got a guy like LeBron who can win it, and I tell FIFO this all the time, you got a guy that can win one game, by himself, you can pencil that in, right? So all you need is the team to help get you 3 more. And I'll say this, if Chris Bosh shows up like he did against Indiana in the last 3 games, and not wither like he did against Tim Duncan, and I think Chris Bosh will do that, they're going to be nearly impossible to beat. Another factor that plays into the Heat's favor is, remember last year, Wade wasn't healthy. Wade is healthy this year. So I think that's an advantage Spurs. I mean,
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And also, I've read this a couple of times, and Ray Allen has said it himself. LeBron James remembers every single play that he's seen. He remembers every defense. He remembers every offense. He doesn't forget anything. Right. He remembers what they did to him last year. And he remembers how his tentativeness have cost him last year. But in 6 or 7, he figured it out. And they will carry that over into this year. And one more thing, when they played the Spurs this year, they beat them early in the season. When they played against the Spurs at home, the Spurs blew them out. But remember, the Heat kind of lollygagged through the season. They were more focused on getting Dwayne Wade healthy. So I think they are going to see a focused Miami Heat team that know what to expect. Like people said, they have played this team before. They know their tendencies. They know their strengths. And I think that will help them out in this series. They know what Danny Green can do. They'll be more aware of him. Patty Mills can be a problem, but I think they can probably find a way to nullify him. And I think Gary Neal is not there, so they're not going to have that, runaway game that they had, that made them look so ridiculous last year. When they played the Spurs and they were shooting threes all over the place. But yeah, man, I'm going with the Heat in 6, man. I think that they learned a lot last year, and I think that will carry over into this year. And I think Tim Duncan made a mistake when he opened his mouth. And I think he has the Miami Heat's attention. And Wade isn't saying anything, but I know Wade has that same smile that he gave Lance Stevenson when Indiana played. Remember when Lance Stevenson jumped in his face and Wade just looked at him and smiled? He was like, okay, I see you, and I'll see you in the playoffs. And I think that they have the Miami Heat's attention, and they're going to get the Miami Heat at their best.
Okay. What about you, FIFO, man? What's your call? Who wins it, and in how many games?
Kyle, let me go on and say this. I think this is probably one of the best finals that we're going to see. A lot of storylines, and I think Miami's going to get it in 7. And here's my reasoning. San Antonio is probably the best team in the NBA. But when it comes down to it, I don't care who you got on the other side. His name could be Kawhi Leonard. You cannot stop the man called LeBron King James. And when you're that great, and we're not just talking about one aspect of the game, we're talking about he's Miami Heat's best passer, best rebounder, best defender, best scorer. He's the best of everything in the NBA. And I don't care who you have on the other side, you're not going to be able to stop that. And I dare Popovich and San Antonio and crew to give LeBron that amount of space again and just be like, here, go ahead and shoot your way to a championship. Because last year I didn't understand why in the first 3 games LeBron just didn't grasp that. Like, bro, and then during the finals last year, the footage surfaced of him shooting half-court jump shots. We're like, I know me shooting a half-court shot, I damn near have to heat it just a little bit. But LeBron is shooting form jumpers from half-court. And why? Like, I don't understand. They're leaving you open from the 3-point line, and you're like, oh, my God, I don't know what to do. Shoot the fucking ball. So, with all that being said, I think Miami gets it in 7 or even possibly 6. And the reason being, alluding to Ken's point, they got D-Wade. D-Wade's healthy. If Bosh can just be a half a Bosh, for every game, and D-Wade gives you 75% and LeBron is 100% as he is most games, I don't see how you overcome that. Even great teams, because great teams have run into the best player in the finals at the prime of their career and they lost. Ask Stockton, ask Sean Kemp and GP, ask everybody, ask Clyde Drexler, ask Magic, ask all the people that went against MJ, and he just denied them. And I've always said, I said once LeBron wins his first, it's going to be a LeBron era. So I'm not stepping back from that now. I definitely think that with him being the best player and them having the complementary pieces, and not just complementary, because he had complementary pieces in Cleveland, complementary pieces that show up when the game is on the line. That's the difference. And Miami has that, and LeBron by far is on a whole other planet than any other player, so I have to go with them.
And you know what? Just real quick before you go, Kyle, you're absolutely right about one thing that I've noticed in the playoffs is Miami has definitely shifted into championship mode, and the amount of focus that I see on LeBron's face every single night, I have not seen that from him since he's been in the league. I didn't even see it last year when they were going for their second straight. It's like now he has learned how to win. He knows how to win. And now that he's in the playoffs, that's all he focuses on is winning. Nothing else matters. And they would have beaten the Pacers in 5 if the refs didn't cheat them out of game 5 with those 5 fouls. And they almost had a chance to win that game. So they really should only have 2 losses up to this point. Brooklyn, you know, they had some veterans, and they just missed them. They beat the Heat in 4. So, but the focus, the way LeBron is locked in and the way that everybody's following him, man, it's like he is that leader on the court. He knows he's the best player on the court. He's not afraid of the moment. He will make the right play regardless of whether you think it's the right play. And that's it, man. And you know what, man? I think he's a student of the game, and he's trying to solidify his place on Mount Rushmore unequivocally. Just like the B was saying. If he gets 3, he know you can't say shit. He wants 3, and he's going to try his damnedest to give it. And he has something, and more importantly, and I'll end with this, he has something to prove from last year, because people still say that Ray Allen is responsible for them winning 2, and yeah, he is. But LeBron want to say, you know what? Yeah, Ray Allen helped, and Ray Allen may have saved my legacy, but you know what? I got something to prove that this is the one that I'm going to go get this year. So you know what, yeah, man? I think, yeah.
I disagree with that point, because if it wasn't for John Paxson, the Bulls wouldn't have beat, you know.
No, I feel you, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and what Jordan did, Jordan scored every point, I think it was in that 4th quarter, except for that shot. You know what I'm saying? So just like with Steve Kerr and against Utah, you need those guys. When you are the greatest player on the planet at your point in time in your era of your decade of your dominance, you need, I don't care who you are, if you are a great player, you need at least one great shooter on your team. Every great player needs one.
Yeah, you know what, Ralph? That's not me saying that. That's a bunch of people that don't understand certain aspects of what it takes to win a championship. You know, who just want to find a way to pick and nitpick at any damn fucking thing that happens. Shit, yeah, you needed that play, but people forget about the 3 that LeBron made, you know, to get it to within 5 that allowed that missed free throw to put them in that spot. So it's a team that wins a game, and LeBron made a lot of plays in that 4th quarter to put them in that position. So it's just a lot of people nitpicking, man, that want to just find a way to kind of discredit them winning back-to-back. That's not me. I understand that, and I'm totally with you. Because I'll never forget when John Paxson and Steve Kerr hit those shots. I thought it was the best thing Jordan ever did when he passed the ball.
I think, man, I'm going Heat in 7, man. I think, you know, first and foremost, I don't think, Heat in 7. I don't think, you know, LeBron or D Wade or Chris Bosh need any more motivation. I'm a little surprised at what Tim Duncan said. I think every athlete feels like they can beat, you know, their opponent, and you should feel like that. The fact that he said it, I don't know that if it was, you know, him getting caught up in the spur of the moment or what. and I read a comment from I heard a clip from Wade as well as LeBron. He said, LeBron said, hey, he meant it, and he's like, they don't like us, we don't like them, and so we're going to get it on. And Dwayne Wade said, well, anytime we feel like taking it off a little bit, he said, well, you don't. It's the finals. You don't need any motivational talk, but that's definitely motivation. Anytime you feel like taking it a little easy. So that being said, man, I think the Heat, they're focused, man. I like them winning the Game 7 on San Antonio's floor. I think both teams will probably get one on each other's floor. But this is definitely, like FIFO said when he first started off, I think this has all of the makings to be one of the best finals that we've ever seen. There's going to be a lot of ebbs and flows. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts. I think you're going to get some close games. Now, all of this is predicated on, I think, Tony Parker's health, because if Parker's not there or if he's not 100%, then this could be a very short series. I mean, like, if he can, for some reason he can, I understand that, and someone was telling me today, they were saying, well, the Spurs did well without Parker down the stretch against you need all hands on deck to beat the champs, and that's what it's going to take. I just don't know that a team can beat the champion, because you got to beat them 4 times, and I don't know that you can beat them 4 times because they're not going to beat themselves, and the best player in the game is going to show you why. And he's going to have one. He didn't have it in the Indiana series. He had a couple of spurts. But he's going to have a game where he just goes off, and there's not going to be anything that they're going to be able to do. And for him, it was last year was Game 7. I mean, well, like B said, Popovich, for as great a coach as he is, if they give LeBron open jumpers and he's making them, you're in trouble. Let's pick your poison. But I think there's going to be a great finals. I think the Spurs, they have a lot of momentum. They play well at home. Guys like Danny Green and Patty Mills, could be the X factors. I think that's going to be the key. I think, it's going to be incumbent upon them to play well, particularly at home, because guys like Birdman and Norris Cole. But Miami plays well on the road too, and they play well on the road in the playoffs. To be honest, guys, it's kind of hard to, when you get to this point, it's kind of hard to find fault, in any of the team's games, because both teams are so well coached and so evenly matched. That being said, man, I got Miami in 7. I think Miami finds a way to pull it out, and it's going to be on on San Antonio's home court. If Parker's not healthy, that's the caveat. If Parker's not healthy, it'll probably end in 5 or 6. Definitely won't go any shorter than that. But I think we're considering Parker's health, I think we're in for a great finals. The phone number to call in, area code 646 478 0356. Again, 646 478 0356. So B, what will San Antonio have to do to win the finals?
Man, I hope that Tony Parker ass is 100%. But yeah, what it take for him to win the finals? Man, really, I mean, you can't stop him. Just find ways to really kind of get Chris Bosh out the game and get damn. I would say get Chris Bosh out the game. I don't know if they bench can kind of really, yeah, they bench really need to outplay his Miami bench. I think that's a key factor right there, because Miami's bench been playing pretty good. Now you got Shane Battier stepping up. You got Rashard Lewis out here looking like the Seattle Supersonics Rashard Lewis, and I mean, for real. And then Ray Allen. So I think if San Antonio's bench can kind of keep up or either outplay Miami's bench, I think San Antonio got a great chance to win this series, because you know what Ginobili's going to do. You know what Duncan's going to do. You know what Kawhi Leonard's going to do. He's going to play. He's not going to stop LeBron. I think he's going to play good defense on him, but I don't think he's going to stop him or nothing like that. So you got good athleticism on the perimeter with Kawhi Leonard and Boris Diaw. I can see them defensively stepping up, but it's really that bench. I really think that bench for San Antonio if they can go ahead and edge out Miami's bench, pretty good throughout this series, I think San Antonio got a good shot of winning this series in 7. I'm the only one that picked San Antonio.
Right. What about you, FIFO? What will it take for San Antonio to win the finals?
Efficiency. Efficiency is
Okay.
as simple as that. They don't have a player that can match LeBron or outplay LeBron. So the whole team, bench, starting lineup, everybody has to be efficient. Possessions matter, especially when you're playing against Miami when, they're always a top, defensive team. This year they slipped a little bit defensively, but, when it's only one team, one goal, this is the last series for them to accomplish their goal. They're going to be locked in. So for me, San Antonio just needs to play San Antonio Spurs basketball if they want to win. Meaning they shoot a high percentage, means that they pass the ball, they move the defense, they get the defense out of position and they get the shot that they want. And if they're knocking those down, then I think that gives them the best opportunity to win.
No doubt. What about you, Ken? What is it going to take for San Antonio to make us look bad? Since 3 of us picked San Antonio, what is it going to take for San Antonio to win?
They got to execute. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for them, man. Execute and not turn the ball over, and give Miami quick points and easy points. I do think the bench for San Antonio is part of what makes them so great, and I think that the bench will need to step up and be effective. I do think on some levels that the Heat can compete with them with their bench because of Ray Allen. You got Ray Allen versus Manu Ginobili, but for the most part, the San Antonio Spurs need their bench more than the Heat. But I think no turnovers, and they just got to execute.
Okay. I agree. I think San Antonio has to play their game. You don't want to get into a track meet with the Heat because they don't have the horses to really run with the Heat. You want to keep it slow. You pound the ball inside if you can. Take advantage of your height. One thing that people fail to understand is that Miami is a relatively small team. So as they are small, you have to remember that the Heat have the size advantage with guys like Duncan and Splitter and those guys. So take advantage of your size. Do something that Indiana certainly couldn't do or was unwilling to do, and that was go inside and bang the ball inside. I mean, you got Mr. Fundamentals right there on the block, Tim Duncan. He's good for a good 19 every night. So I think that's part of the issue right there. I think turnovers is going to be the key. And just playing your game. If you're San Antonio, play your game. Like I said, you can't get into a running match with these guys. You can't, and you're going to get down. If you get down, stay the course. You can't, kind of fade away and get away from the game and get away from your game, because that's when you ultimately lose against the Heat, because, they're so good. They are so good at doing what they do that
Chris Bosh. I think Chris Bosh and Ray Allen. Mainly Chris Bosh because he has to score and he has to defend. And Chris Bosh has to take what happened to him last year against Tim Duncan personally, and he has to come out like he did against Roy Hibbert, and he has to vindicate himself. Because we all know, and Tim Duncan put that work on. Tim Duncan made Chris Bosh look like a C-level player last year. And damn near every single game there was. So if he can match Tim Duncan's production, then I like them a lot. So I think Chris Bosh is a key. And now I'm trying to get rid of this echo. But Chris Bosh, I think Ray Allen has to come out. He has to hit shots. Norris Cole has to be a disruptor. Rashard Lewis has to continue on his path as the Black Mac Miller, of this year, which now that they've gotten him going. Mike Miller.
You're talking about a rapper.
Yeah. Shit, damn.
This ain't dead in hip hop, man.
Oh, that's hilarious. But now that Rashard Lewis is producing on the offensive end, that gives Miami another weapon, man. We know Birdman's going to be Birdman. Chalmers has to be Chalmers. Chalmers has to be effective and not turn the ball over and not make boneheaded plays. I think he'll step up. And who else? Who else they got? I think that's about it, man. But I think Rashard Lewis and Chris Bosh, I think they'll be a key in this series, man. And if they can produce, it'll be great for them. I find it funny, though, that the Miami Heat are viewed as underdogs in this series. And I looked at this. And I looked at this map that ESPN Sports Nation did, and the only state to pick the Heat to win was Florida. Everybody else has the Spurs winning. So anyway, rooting for the Spurs, I should say. But yeah, man, they're underdogs. It's amazing to me. You win 2 championships and you're an underdog in the finals. Go figure. But those are my keys to the game.
But you know what, Ken?
What about you, B? What is it going to take for Miami to win?
What was you about to say, Ralph? You was about to counter Ken right quick.
Yeah, Miami being underdogs. San Antonio, better team this year in the regular season. They looked better throughout the season. So I can see why, and then Miami, let's be honest, they're not, as a team, they're not as good as they were last year. The difference is LeBron is better, which is crazy to say at this point of his career. But, as a team, I think San Antonio is a stronger overall team. They're deeper.
Ken? Say something to that.
I hear people say that a lot, but why do you think they're not a better team than they were last year outside of the record? Because Dwayne Wade didn't play in 28 games, this year. I hear a lot of people saying that about them. And what makes the Spurs better this year than they were last year?
Kawhi's taking a leap. Patty Mills is a different player this year.
Yeah,
they got
right.
They got the dude Bellinelli. Ginobili has been more consistent throughout the year and in the playoffs, not just.
And he's healthy too. Ginobili wasn't healthy last year.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yep, Ginobili wasn't healthy.
Those are major things. Miami lost Mike Miller. They didn't necessarily replace him. Rashard has been, inconsistent. He had a big, game against Indiana, but for all of since he's been in Miami, he's been inconsistent. Since the championship run in Orlando, he's really been inconsistent. Ray Allen's a year older. Mario Chalmers, in my estimation, he's regressed somewhat.
He has, man.
Not the same guy.
Really. Yeah.
No, Cole has stepped up defensively, but I don't think that he makes up for what Chalmers has lost. Of course, D Wade being healthy is humongous, and they need him. But I just think in terms of depth, man, San Antonio is too deep every position. Where Miami, LeBron covers up a lot of stuff.
All right. I do want to point this out, and I'll let you go, B, that in regards to a lot of, Spo did play with a lot of rotations in the regular season, so I think that's why they've looked erratic at times. But yeah, all valid points. Go ahead, B.
So Kyle, you said, what is it to Miami got to do to win
What
this?
is it going to take for Miami to win it all?
For one, Chris Bosh gonna have to play like he's been playing these last 4 games against Indiana. If Chris Bosh can play like that, I would go as far as to say, Miami probably winning in 5 and 6 games if Chris Bosh can step up the way he's been stepping up recently. I mean, but you know, him against Duncan, you never know. He might not show up.
Right.
But if Chris Bosh can step up, and I think I mentioned it before, if Rashard Lewis can just come out and look like Seattle Supersonics Rashard Lewis, I mean, I think Miami has a shot. And I mean, elephant in the room, LeBron James. LeBron James, this is your moment for you to take it to a championship level. Take it up to a championship. Take it up to that Mount Rushmore that you want to be. It's really on LeBron. It's like, LeBron, this is your moment. This is where your legacy is being. You know, Jordan had his chance. You know, Kobe had his chance. You know, Isaiah Bird, Magic. They had their moments that they knew they had to kind of kick it in high gear. And this is it. I mean, this is the finals. This is your legacy. This is for you to get a three-peat. This is for you to shut up your naysayers. I mean, yeah, you won your first two, your back-to-back, but this one against this San Antonio team that's gunning for you, just like how those other teams was gunning for Michael, how those other teams was gunning for Magic and Bird and them. This is your moment, LeBron. So I think it's really on, of course those other points I made, but it's really on LeBron to take it up to Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore level. If you want to be considered that, this is your moment, LeBron. This is your series. So it's on LeBron.
Yeah, I agree. Get out and transition, force turnovers. San Antonio is not a team that's going to beat themselves. So you have to be mindful of that as well. So when you think about that, that the Heat have to come out and play their game. They got to jump out on them early. They've got to, especially in San Antonio, got to be able to withstand the pressure that's going to come down on them, from the home crowd and the way the team plays at home. But that's what it's going to take for the Heat to win, man. I think it's just going to be. Of course, it sounds easy. It's easier said than done. They're going to definitely have to try to keep Parker out of the lane because Miami doesn't have a post presence like that that's going to block shots how Roy Hibbert should have been doing. So if Parker's healthy, can you keep Cole? Can you keep Mario Chalmers in front of him? That's going to be the key too, because the Heat they've struggled against faster point guards. I mean, Tony Parker's not as fast as he used to be, but he's still quick. He still get to the basket. I think. Oh, he can definitely still get to the basket, and hopefully his ankle is going to hold up for them to be successful. 646-478-0356. Man, we only got like 11 minutes left. The Clippers, man, got sold amongst a lot of controversy. Finally, for $2 billion. Let me say that again: $2 billion to my man Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer, former CEO of Microsoft. Steve Ballmer is worth $20 billion, and he paid $2 billion for the Clippers. And they said that 85% of what he paid was in cash.
Wow.
$2 billion, and you paying 85% of it in cash in hand. I mean, like, that's phenomenal. So as far as the Clippers, man, B, what do you do, going forward? Do you think one thing I want to kind of throw out there that I don't think a lot of people know is that Steve Ballmer, obviously he's a Seattle guy. He was in Seattle. He was a part of the coalition that was trying to bring a team back to Seattle. He obviously lives in Seattle or what have you. Do you think ultimately a team like the Clippers could move? I know he said that they weren't going to move, but if you think about it, if you remove him from Seattle, then Seattle no longer has a huge major player in trying to bring a team back to the city. But going forward, man, what do you think is going to happen with the Clippers?
I mean, for one, if the Clippers are worth $2 billion, how much is the Lakers worth? How much? Exactly. How much are the? How much are the Yankees worth? Or are these other expensive teams? Because how all of a sudden the Clippers become so expensive like that? But I think they might still stay in LA. I I don't think they would move, or he would try to move him back to Seattle. But I mean, you do make a great point about that. He tried to get a team back in Seattle. So I mean, I think they still be a Clippers, L.A. Clippers,
Okay.
Los Angeles Clippers. But
What
I just
about you,
think
Ken? What do you think's next for the Clippers? Do you think they stay in LA? What do you think happens with them?
You got something else real quick, B?
Yeah, I was just saying. Yeah, I just think
Oh, I'm sorry, B.
Yeah, you good. I just think $2 billion is that's like extremely high. Like, damn, you went from buying a team in 1981 for $12 million to being worth the $2 billion. That's too much. I don't think that's too much.
Inflation.
I mean, if they were that much, damn it, Lakers and Dodgers and shit should be worth $100 billion or something. I mean, damn, $2 billion for the Clippers.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind,
go-
Magic just bought the Dodgers last year from Frank McCoy for $2 billion.
For $2 billion. Yeah. I know, that's crazy. But go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
I don't think it's too much, man. They've been winning for the last few years, and with a guy like Ballmer running the team, I can see him investing into that winning culture that they have established over the last few years that would help further keep that value there. The reason they weren't worth as much before is because they were losing, but now that they're winning and they have became one of the premium teams in LA from a winning perspective, as far as putting a winning product on the team, not in regards to who has the brand recognition and the legacy of winning, then I think it's an appropriate evaluation. Just like FIFO said, inflation, obviously has a lot to do with that. But I think the success that they've had and the fact that they expect a championship from this group and that they, are a couple of moves from hopefully getting to the finals, I think it could be worth that much, in the long run, as long as they continue to win. So you know what, man? I think they're gonna. I expect them to, carry on tradition, man, and continue to do what they do, man. As long as Sterling is completely out of the picture, and as long as he's gone, I think they'll get back to playing basketball and focusing on basketball.
And another thing that we didn't mention in terms of their worth is the TV deal. Their current TV deal is going to be up, I think, at the end of next year. So, I think right now they're estimating that they're going to get over like 20-some million a year just on their TV deal. So, at the end of the day, it's all about the product. And when, to Ken's point, once you are a championship contender, regardless of whatever your past was, it's about your present and your future. And, the Clippers' present is very bright, and their future is bright as well, especially because you have the best head coach, or one of the best head coaches in the NBA right now. And fortunately, he's also the GM. So, like I said, and I don't know, I'm straying a little bit from, the original topic, but I think that in today's NBA age, the best teams are going to have their head coach be associated with personnel decisions. Kind of like, whether if you have a traditional GM head coach like R.C. Buford or Greg Popovich, or if you have a hybrid situation like Doc Rivers, or even in Detroit with Stan Van Gundy hired the GM. So it's like you work for me instead of the other way around. So I think that the hierarchy is changing. But that's the reason why I think the Clippers are worth that much now. And you have arguably the most exciting basketball player next to LeBron James in the NBA. He sells tickets, and that person is Blake. So that's why they're worth.
Definitely. And like my man Notch said in the chat room, he said to quote the great Randy Moss, man, straight cash, homie. That's what he paid for. Straight cash. Shout out to Steve Ballmer, man. I mean, that's amazing in and of itself. And like you said, values of teams are going up, man. So, ultimately ticket prices will go up, and these TV deals are, sweet. But also got to remember too that they pay the salaries for the players that we watch on a day-to-day basis. Man, we only got like 4 minutes left. Let's jump into the closing statements, man. Ken, let's start with you. Closing statements for tonight's show.
Man, real quick, man. I see Skip Bayless. This is for Skip, man. You know what? He's been talking about the West being this tough and that tough, and how the Spurs had to fight their way to the finals through a tough Western Conference. I just want to say this, man. Look, I think the Heat deserves a little bit of credit. Brooklyn was a veteran team, and that beat them 4 times. We know the regular season don't mean anything, whatever. Pacers had a size advantage, of course. And we know that they've had problems. Charlotte was a problem. But Brooklyn and Charlotte both had winning records, in the after the All-Star break. They were not scrubs. The Spurs went up against a Portland Trailblazer team that clearly was not ready, where Lillard and Aldridge struggled. And then, of course, they got the benefit of an Ibaka injury when they played OKC and managed to put 2 on the board. So, the West was tough, but the Spurs didn't have that tough of a path to the finals outside of Dallas, who pushed them to 7 games. So, man, I don't want to hear that noise, man. So that's all I have to say.
What about you, B? Closing statement.
Closing statements. It's interesting to see what Golden Boy Promotions is going to go now that Richard Schaefer has left the Golden Boy Promotions camp. I don't know if he's, and then now I think soon after he left, Mayweather Promotions, they cut their ties with Golden Boy Promotions. So, going forward, I wonder what fights, Mayweather's going to look to get now in these last 3 fights of his contract Showtime deal.
T.I.
Now that he's not a part of the Golden Boy, he's been a part of the Golden Boy for like the last 7, 8 years now. So, I'm interested to see what fighters he's going to put, because evidently I don't think he's going to do anything with Top Rank because they don't get along with Bob Arum. So it's kind of interesting. So I just thought I'd point that out. Richard Schaefer leaving Golden Boy, Mayweather Promotions left him. So are we heading to the Cold War of boxing now? Or, is it getting even more deader than it probably is? So that's all I gotta say.
All right, closing it out, my man FIFO, what you got?
Cleveland, y'all been lucky. Y'all gotten the number 1 pick however many times. I know that it is a risk, but any draft when you're choosing number 1 is a risk. Please do yourselves a favor. Do yourselves a favor and take Joel Embiid. He is what you need.
Yeah.
If you want a shot for LeBron, that's who you go get. And long term, even if you don't get LeBron, you have hopefully a top 5 point guard, and you would arguably already have a top 3 center coming in. So, Cleveland, please take Joel Embiid.
We're definitely going to talk about the draft as we get closer and closer. My closing statement, man, got a message the other day from Falcons owner Arthur Blank about the fact that the NFL could be located in London within the next 5 to 10 years. Message from me, don't do it. I don't think the NFL has business over in London. I think it logistically is tough for the players. It's a lot. It's a lot. And honestly, I don't think the fans here are that excited about seeing teams go over there to play anyway. That's going to do it for this week. This is Dead End Sports. So for FIFO, for B, for Ken, I'm your host, 12 Kyle. We'll holler at you guys next week. Peace.
Peace. Pacers in 7. Pacers in 7, bitches.
Did he say Pacers?
Yeah, he said Pacers. Your ass said the damn Pacers.
Oh, shit.
Can be on some other shit.
Yeah.
Say what?
I was like, Pacers.
You on some other shit, Ken.
Trolling, man. Fuck the Pacers, man. I felt bad for him, though, man. But anyway.
You didn't feel bad for him.
Nah, not really. They talked to me.
Your ass was happy as hell.
But you know what, Ken, man, on that talking shit thing, man, I think the NBA's missing that. Talk shit. Just back it up. That's the difference.
Right.
These NBA players, man, you know what it is? Them boys too young. They don't have the experience to talk shit because they don't know how to back it up. And all of this stuff, what Lance Stevenson was doing, they talk about it's costing them money. Now teams don't. Man, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, Yo, Dennis Rodman, I was listening to Stephen A. give some stories, and he was like, yo, Dennis Rodman used to fart on people, grab balls.
Dennis Rodman used to hump on Karl Malone and shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But like people said, you know, he backed it up with great defensive play, and he had shut that person down. So, yeah, man, if Stevenson would have been getting LeBron, or not getting in his head, but like if Stevenson would have been balling, and if Indiana would have been winning, then we'd have been like, whoa, well, Stevenson's a genius for doing this. But
Exactly.
the fact that LeBron bust his ass, you know, and they got blown out, of course it's gonna look even stupider because, you know, okay, Lance, what the hell you was doing that for? When, you know, because quiet as kept when Gary Payton was talking shit to Jordan. Because George Karl he didn't play Gary Payton on Jordan until after they lost their first 3 games when they was down 0-3. When he played Jordan in game 4 and 5, Jordan had like some of his worst shooting nights in NBA Finals history, and nobody talk about that. To this day, George Karl wish he would have had Gary Payton checking Jordan in the beginning of the series.
But wasn't that the same year that
no doubt,
won Defensive Player of the Year?
Gary Payton, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. Like, George Karl was so stupid for not at the beginning of the series, he should have said, Gary Payton, you gonna lock up on Jordan.
Yep.
And for him not to lock up on Jordan, that's why they went down 3-0. And then, you know, they won 2 games because Gary Payton was guarding Jordan. And Jordan, I think he went 6 for 22 in game 5. And then like in game 4, game 5, he was like 7 for 16. He had like his worst shooting nights when Gary Payton was checking him. And to this day, George Karl was like, man, I wish I would have played Gary Payton on Jordan the whole series. And Gary Payton was talking shit.
Oh, yeah, at that point, you got to roll the dice.
That's what Gary Payton was called the glove. This man wasn't called the glove for no reason, man. Like, Gary Payton was locking fools up. So, yeah, George Karl was stupid for that one.
Isn't he the shortest player to ever win the Defensive Player of the Year?
I believe so.
That sounds about right.
Yep, I believe so. Why is my left ear working? What the hell? Yeah, that sounds about right. Hold on. Say something.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, it's working. Cool.
Yeah, Kyle, I don't know what happens. Sometimes your audio dips out.
You know, I got to figure it out, man, because I could see y'all, and that's why I said, but I couldn't. And I was like, well, damn, I can't hear anything. And then